Last time on 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. I wouldn't go with him, Lotus.
So, where was it you wanted to take me?
There's something I wanted to show you.
If we're lucky, it's just his penis.
Hey man, what the hell? I'm not important enough?
Well, I'm not really dying to see it, Junpei, but okay.
Well, it's not like that. Once I've shown Lotus, I'll show you.
Hello, denizens of the internet, and welcome back to 999. When we last left off, we finally reached one of the game's endings, but unfortunately for us, that ending was the Axe ending, so we met a very gruesome end at the hands of Clover Field. And yes, that actually is her canon name. It would have been less subtle if the movie by the same name had featured a giant axe-wielding yandere monster, but no doubt a lot more terrifying. But I digress. When we last left off, we were faced with the dilemma of how to proceed forward, whether it was more desirable to continue to focus on the end game and pump out a few new endings and see what else we can learn about the overall narrative, or whether it would be more constructive to go all the way back to the beginning and sort of start from a clean slate and flesh out as much of this flowchart as possible. And what I've actually decided to do is sort of a compromise between these two plans. I'm not going to go all the way back to the beginning and explore door 5 just yet, but we are going to go back to before we open the second set of numbered doors, and we're going to do this with the intention of exploring door 3 this time. Any astute viewers might recall that this is not a particularly advisable course of action. There is no way for us to open door 3 without leaving an excess number of people behind at this juncture in the story. Now, of course, we know that all the numbered doors in the big hospital room all feed back into that same room after their puzzles are solved, but the cast isn't aware of this detail yet, so convincing them is going to be an arduous task to say the least. Nevertheless, I think there are a few advantages that are significant to going through door 3 at this point. It provides us the opportunity of seeing how the story plays out if we uncover the truth of Snake's death a little bit earlier, and it also provides us the opportunity to be the people to firsthand investigate the body, which has the potential to reveal some clues that didn't come up in our original run-through of these events. So, with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and jump back in. We probably will have to do just a little bit of fast-forwarding over dialogue that we've already seen in order to get to the decision where we can open door 3, but that should take just a brief moment after loading into this spot. Alright, let's fast forward. And here we are. Oh, and as a quick recap of the events in this timeline leading up to this point, at this time it is the same as from the first playthrough. That means Santa, June, Lotus, and I have gone through... Yes, I had to double check and think about the people we'd went with there. For some reason I was thinking Clover had come with us, but no. Santa, June, Lotus, and I went through door 4 and explored the kitchen and the second-class cabin before regrouping with everybody else here in the large hospital room, and shortly after that, Snake went missing. We haven't been able to locate him, so now we're pressing forward with door 3 in this case.
I want to go through door number 3. Nope, you can't. Huh? Why? Because it's impossible. If we split ourselves into 3 and 3, then we give up on going through door 3. Why?
Yeah, I remember our discussion last time about how the only way we can divide the 6 of us up is using doors 7 and 8. It was the whole reason Ace knocked himself unconscious.
The bracelet numbers for the 6 of us are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
There are two combinations that can go through door 3 with 3 people. 3, 4, 5, or 6, 7, 8.
Okay. And since neither of those teams have any overlapping numbers, if one party goes in to door 3, the other party will be stuck with the digital route of also 3 and not be able to follow after us because we're currently occupying that room.
That's it. Of course, 2 teams can't go through the same door.
I see. That means one team would get left behind.
That's right.
That doesn't happen if we go through door 7 or 8?
No, they're fine. We've got 3 options.
For some reason, the game won't let me fast forward this part, but I'm going to go ahead and skip through it, because Santa really does just lay down the same 3 options that we discussed when we passed through this part originally.
Option A, have 3 and 4. Option B, 4, 5, and 7, and 3. Options 3 and 4. Those are the only 3 options, at least if we want to get all 6 of us out of here.
Wait.
That was when Junpei realized. Plan A divided into 2 teams, 3, 5, 8, and 4, 6, 7. Plan B divides into 2 teams, 4, 5, 7, and 3, 6, 8. And Plan C also divides into 2 teams, 3, 6, 7, and 4, 5, 8.
But that means...
There was one thing that they all had in common.
5 and 6 can never be on the same team.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
If we want all 6 of us to go through a door, then June and I can't go into the same one.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time in the course of playing the Nonary game that had come up. I think the only time we have gone with June is when we went through door 4, but when we went through the laboratory and the wheelhouse in the previous run-through, she was not with us, so... Honestly, this is more or less the status quo, Junpei. June and Junpei had been friends since they were kids. He trusted her more than anyone else on the ship. If he chose door 7 or 8, he'd be taken away from her. Was that something he was prepared to do?
Have you mulled it over enough, or do you need more time?
Well, it's not the same motivation I had for opening door 3, but I don't see any reason we can't stick with it anyway and help Junpei out.
Anyway, that's the deal, so think it over. You've got 2 choices, 7 or 8. You can't choose 3. If you choose 3, you're gonna be leaving 3 people behind to die.
Ah, but you underestimate the magnitude of my simping.
So what are you gonna do? 7 or 8? Time to choose.
Junpei thought hard. After thinking it over, his conclusion was to take the risk and choose door 3. Sorry, Santa, sticking to my guns on this one. Waifus before lifus.
Sorry, Santa, but I still want to go through door 3.
What? That's nuts! You've got to be crazy! Why the hell are you so obsessed with that door?
Hey, now let's clear one thing up. I am not obsessed with the door. I'm obsessed with June. And I don't appreciate you comparing her to a common entryway like that. That is somebody's sister, Santa. You need to be more courteous.
I'm just...
Junpei paused. He swallowed the words he'd been about to say.
I'm just curious about door 3. That's all.
That's a vague reason.
That doesn't explain shit!
I've got a reason.
I'd be happy to explain it to you if you'll just come with me.
What do you have up your sleeve? With that, he began walking toward the door. Their curiosity likely getting the better of them, the others followed. A few of them looked a little suspicious, but Junpei told himself that wouldn't matter. He kept walking and kept silent. It might matter. Ultimately, they hold the cards when it comes to whether or not we go through a numbered door, because no matter what Junpei does to get them to authenticate, well, short of violent coercion, I suppose, if they don't enter the door with him, he won't be able to authenticate on the dead on the opposite side, and He'll just get blown up. Eventually, they arrived at the number 3 door. Junpei stopped.
I'm curious about the red. 7, would you mind authenticating for me?
Why?
Yeah, that's probably healthy skepticism, 7. After all, the reds kind of govern our life and death.
Please, just do it.
He stared at Junpei for a moment, then grunted and laid his palm heavily on the scanner.
Happy?
Yeah, thanks.
The number 7 has been entered into the red.
Next is June. Please touch the red just like 7 did.
Jumpy, what are you trying to figure out?
Ah, yep. I think.
Junpei thought about his answer for a moment.
I think I might have found another way out.
What?
That's a bold claim. He's just trying to get them riled up so they won't think logically and realize that they don't have to go through the door with him, huh?
What?
Really?
That got them excited. Just as Junpei had intended.
Now please, June.
Oh, okay.
7 plus 6 equals 13. 1 plus 3 equals 4. With those two numbers in the red, Junpei had what he wanted. He casually placed his own hand on the scanner panel, and the third asterisk blinked on. Alright, so that would bring the digital root in the panel to 9. So we need to add 3 to it in order to open the door. So that would only require Santa's bracelet, but he seems really reluctant to participate in any of this, so I'm not really sure where Junpei's plan's going.
All right, the only people who haven't authenticated now are Santa, Clover, and Lotus.
So, what's your point?
You don't get it. Think about it.
Huh?
What's the sum of your number and Clover's?
8 plus 4, 12. Oh, that's right. Her and Clover's digital root adds up to the same as Santa's bracelet. He's getting them riled up, and then he's going to make them fight over who gets to authenticate and go through the door. He's using their fear of being left behind against them. Wow, that is... that's fucked up, Junpei. That's a hell of a Batman gambit that came out of thin air there, though. I don't know where all this cleverness was in the last episode.
12.
And what's the digital root of that?
3.
Which is Santa's number. By the way, Lotus, what's the number that's currently in the red?
7 plus 6 plus 5 equals 18. It would be 9, right?
Yes, and what will the digital root be if you add 3 to that?
3. The door's number.
There you go.
Hey, wait a minute. What the hell are you up to?
I'm not up to anything. I'm just waiting.
Waiting for what?
I'm waiting for the balance to shift.
Fuck, man. I joked earlier about a twist where Junpei turned out to be 0, but if he's going to pull this level of mastermind manipulation, it might be a more plausible outcome than I was considering. This dude's IQ really goes from 0 to like 140 on the turn of a dime, doesn't it?
Santa, or Lotus and Clover. Once one of you moves, the others won't have a choice. So I'm waiting.
Junpei laid his hand almost casually on the lever.
You son of a bitch! You tricked us! And all that stuff you were going on about is all bullshit!
Don't overreact. You're not totally caught in the spider's web yet.
Bullshit. Huh. I don't think so. Didn't I tell you I'd figured out another way to get out of here? This is it.
Why the hell would you do something like this?
Junpei glanced at June.
Jumpy.
You did this just so you could go through the same door as June.
Well, when you put it that way, I sound like kind of a simp.
That's it?
Santa was furious. His face was red and flecks of spit flew from his lips as he spoke. Junpei closed his eyes calmly and opened them again.
So, who's it going to be?
So Junpei blinked.
Santa? Or Lotus and Clover?
Shit!
Let's go, Clover.
Lotus leapt forward. She grabbed Clover by the sleeve and ran for Junpei in the door.
Fuck!
Caught by surprise, Santa froze for a moment, then shot forward like a bullet from a gun. Lotus had a head start, but Santa had the advantage in size and speed. And, you know, he's not dragging however much Clover weighs. That's probably the deciding factor. Almost immediately, he passed Lotus and Clover.
Oh, no, wait!
Santa did not hesitate. He slammed his hand down on the red.
This is insane! This isn't right!
He glared at Junpei, his chest heaving.
Yeah, well, you may be right.
Junpei's voice was cold, but not without effort.
But
He turned to the red and pulled the lever away. With the sound of metal on metal, the door opened. It would only remain so for 9 seconds. There was no time to think.
Go.
It looks like he's gonna pull it off. Junpei and his 3 reluctant companions jumped into the door's gaping mouth, one after another. No sooner did they enter than the all-too-familiar noise sounded from their left wrists. The detonators had activated. Junpei looked back only once and saw Lotus and Clover on the other side of the closing door. And then Lotus rushes the door at the last second for one last defiant act of hostility and declares that she'd rather blow up than starve to death on this ship, and just wails on Junpei for the remaining 81 seconds. That would be a plan backfiring spectacularly.
No.
They stood still, stopped where they had been when Santa reached the red. The defeat and desperation on their faces tore at Junpei's heart. Then the door closed, and they were gone.
You son of a bitch, Junpei! This isn't fair!
Santa rounded on Junpei, lightning crackling in his eyes and his knuckles white.
Do you realize what you just did? You leave them out there, and they can't...
Shut it! That's enough!
Or it hadn't been Junpei that spoke, but Seven.
We gotta find the dead or none of this is gonna matter!
The clock was ticking. The dead was their only chance at survival. Unless they could find it and deactivate their detonators, the 4 of them would be...
We got less than a minute left! No time for screwing around! Get moving!
Damn it! You and I are not done yet, bastard!
They scattered and began to scour the room. The deactivation device was nowhere to be found.
Where the hell is it?
Corridors stretched out in 3 directions, but every one was blocked off by a wall of metal. There was only one way out. One other door.
Over there! It's gotta be behind the door!
Seven ran for the door, a rusty iron thing. His large hands grabbed hold of the handle and pulled.
damn, it's pitch dark inside.
Can't see a thing!
Junpei stuck his head through the door and looked around the room.
No, wait!
Almost immediately, he spotted the blinking red light on the right wall.
I found it! The dead's right over here!
He stepped into the room.
Ugh.
Oh, sound of something wet. If it was near the red, I can hazard a guess as to what that was, and, well, they'll be finding out soon, assuming they can't already smell it.
What? The floor's slippery!
He stopped and glanced down at his feet. What was...
Hey! What the hell are you doing?
There's something...
Get over there!
Junpei felt Seven's heavy hand against his back and stumbled across the room. Oh god, I hope I don't land in Snake. The other three piled in behind him. They all felt immediately that something was wrong. Nothing that could be easily identified, only a sense that something terrible shared the room with them. But there was no time to say so.
Quick! Get to the den!
They all started running. In the dark, it was hard to tell where the wall was. All they could see was the tiny red light blinking at them over and over and over.
There it is!
In quick succession, they all slammed their hands against the scanner panel. Seven leaned against the wall, gulping air. As his breathing began to return to normal, he glanced at his left wrist and grunted.
It stopped. It stopped.
Junpei could hear him laughing in the dark, but could barely make out the larger man's face.
I don't think I'll ever get used to doing this.
What the...
Your senses are finally returning to you. The sound of retching came from Santa's direction.
What the hell is this smell?
I don't know, but I think you're gonna have trouble keeping your milk and cookies down.
This is vile. I'm gonna puke.
So desperate had they been in their race to the dead that no one had noticed the horrible smell that pervaded the room. It was a terrible, nauseating stench, like burnt and rotten meat. That's a hell of a combination. Normally to get that combination, that's a hell of a nasty combination. Normally to get that, you have to go to Arby's. That's a hell of a nasty combination. Normally to get both burnt and rotten smelling meat, you have to go to an Arby's. I've smelled two particularly nauseating scents in my life. One was the fish carcasses behind a seafood restaurant near the beach, and the other was something unspeakable in the bathroom of a county fair, though I'd hazard to guess this is in the same league as either of them. Adrenaline had drowned it out, but now it rolled over Junpei in waves, forcing itself into his nose with every breath he took.
Oh, you're right. This is...
Oh, can taste it. Ugh. He felt his stomach clench and bile rise up in his throat.
Let's get the lights on first. There's a switch over here.
Tell you what, this room's not going to take us no hour and a half with that kind of motivation. The light that spilled in from the door was barely illuminated a small switch plate next to the door. Slowly, with the toll of the last few minutes apparent in his gait, Seven walked toward it. He stopped as he got close, and extended his fingers toward the switch.
Okay, guys, I'm flipping it on.
There was a soft click as the lights came on. Just as the light turned on, June took in a short breath and... yeah, that's right. Junpei protected you from actually seeing this last time, but, this time we kinda came in without forewarning. I didn't really account for that part. A scream echoes through the room. Junpei's breath stopped in his throat. His heart ceased to beat. Well, then his bracelet should come off. Time froze. His mind scrambled to make sense of what he saw before him.
What? Hey,
Oh, this is...
What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn. Okay, now I recognize this. I wonder if should be skipping this. It won't let me, but it seems like a dialogue we've already gone through. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso. Spaghetti intestines. Meat splattered to the wall, sliding down it as they dry. Yellow fat.
Looks like an explosion.
Yeah, the works. It seems totally unchanged. Seven's voice was low and strange.
Just like the Ninth Man. The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut.
oh god. The bone is coming out of his left arm. It's definitely an open fracture.
Did they mention that part last time? I feel like they did, but I'm not totally sure. If it's disabled the fast forward feature, something should be new, but I can't put my finger on what.
The face is the worst.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, all this is the same.
Is that. Oh my god.
Oh, okay, this is why it's new. Everything up till now is the same, but it's including June's reaction. Suddenly, June was screaming. Her voice broken. It was an eerie scream, full of insanity and not entirely human.
No! No! No!
She shook her head violently and grabbed fistfuls of her own hair. Junpei could hear the sound of her hair tearing. Oh, damn.
Stop! Calm down.
He grabbed for her wrist,
Hey!
but as he did, June leapt up and ran toward the exit.
Please! Get me out of here! You have to let me out of here!
She screamed at the door, and her fists slammed against it with a hollow sound. Junpei could see drops of blood on her knuckles.
Why are you doing these horrible things to us? What did we do to deserve this?
June.
She screamed again, a desperate, mindless cry. Her fists flailed against the door.
Get me out of here! Please! Please! Just let me out!
June.
Junpei couldn't watch anymore. He ran to June and wrapped his arm around her, pulling the screaming girl away from the door.
Calm down.
No! Get off of me! Let me go! Let me go!
Ah, man, that hits a little close to home. I've seen a handful of people have fairly severe freakouts, not from anything quite so horrifying as this. And yeah, this skittish animal reaction and general unwillingness to be touched or helped is pretty grounded and believable. It could be a scary thing to watch, compared to something as horrifying as the body. At least that's static, but I don't know. You never know what's going to come out of a person when they're in this state, and that unpredictability can make you really uneasy.
Please, calm down.
She scrambled for a moment, her legs skittering across the floor, but her resistance didn't last long. As suddenly as her outburst had begun, it was over. The manic energy disappeared, and her body went limp in Junpei's arms. June collapsed toward the floor, and Junpei knelt down with her. he felt drops of something warm and wet. Was she crying? A moment later, she began to sob. Oh. Her shoulders shook, and great, hot tears rolled down her face like rain.
We're gonna be fine. It's gonna be alright, June. It's going to be okay, Connie.
Ah, yes, finally. My single greatest wish for for hearing this game voice acted was to settle the pronunciation of that pet name there, because I myself have always read it as Canny, and I've seen a lot of other people pronounce it that way too. But I figured Connie was more consistent with the spelling and likelier what they were actually going for, and it's cool to see that confirmed, even if it isn't what I personally felt like going with. I will say I think Canny is still a cuter name, even if it makes less sense. Her name was a whisper.
I'll be here with you, okay?
She nodded once.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jumpy.
Her trembling voice pulled at Junpei's heart. He stroked her hair gently. His face was so close to her. The scent of her hair was nostalgic.
Do you feel better?
Yes, but I'd like to stay here. For a little while, at least. Jumpy's body is so warm.
Several minutes passed before June's tears had dried. Junpei stood up. He bent down, put his arms under June's, and helped her to her feet. Well, that was a little bit stressful, but at least we got a little bit of chemistry between Junpei and June. They didn't speak. Neither did Seven or Santa. A person was dead. They had died in that room, in a terrible way. Junpei knew there was no way he could make himself forget that. There was no way that any of them could forget it, but mourning would do no good. They spread out to search the room, but each felt as if their heart was made of lead.
We better get to it.
Alright, we should probably start by reading the writing on the wall. Literally. Those letters written in blood. LLR. Do you think that they might be some sort of dying message from Snake? I'm gonna go ahead and say no, considering what happened to him. Short of being possessed by some sort of demon or eldritch entity, I don't really know how the hell he could have stayed alive to do that. And the notion that he could have makes me glad it was blacked out in here and the cameras couldn't have captured such an abominable feat, because that would just be heinous to watch. No, that's impossible. You saw the body. You aren't doing anything after something like that happens to you. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with 7 on that one. Crushed skull, torn open torso, broken extremities. That's not even a body anymore. The way the blood's dried tells you it's real old. Whoever's blood this is, it ain't snakes. Then you're saying this blood was put here a long time ago? Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I was kind of thinking these were predated. I was kind of thinking that these predated Snake's explosion already. I mean, either that or they're a really interesting case study on the effects of alphabet soup on forensic investigations. Okay, we've also got a light switch, but it doesn't look like messing with that does anything right now. If I back off, it just turns right back on. Alright, let's see if anything happens when I turn you. Nope, nothing. Not even a drop. Is the pipe clogged? What about these? Alright, these work. Let's see if... Shit, that's hot. Really hot. Man, that water must be just about boiling. That is how I like my shower. Well, okay, definitely not that hot, but I do like a really hot shower. There's a piece of paper tied to this pipe with a wire. Notice, drainage valve operation. Please do not flush the water in these pipes. Doing so may cause the drain to overflow. Okay, so we're definitely going to have to figure out how to do that. Okay, and it's another keypad barring us from escaping the room, although this time it has two different screens that say lock on it, so we might need to use an individual keycard and password for each one of those and authenticate twice in order to get the door open. I can't click on that. And there's our first key card. It looks like a card, like a key card. I wonder if we can get to it somehow. Don't think so. It's too deep. I can't reach it. Well, if we can't get to it, we'll have to make it come to us. We've already found a big hint about flooding the room. Thermostat, or a thermometer, that's right. It doesn't control the temperature, it just reads it. Can you get it off? No. It's screwed onto the wall. Oh, what about these stalls? I already checked all 3 toilets, you know. Nothing unusual there. Huh. Well, that was helpful of Santa. I actually expected to spend most of this puzzle room butting heads with him after the way Junpei deceived everybody to get in here, but I guess that the shock of finding Snake's body kind of served as a distraction, and now he's not really focused on all that. If I ever get back to a timeline where Snake's actually alive, I'll have to thank him for providing me that bit of cover. So this room is really sparse so far. We still haven't found anything of use. And the first thing we do find is toilet paper. It's toilet paper with some kind of red symbols on it. You think maybe that's a Citadel cipher? And yes, that's also how that's pronounced. I had to look that one up. It looks like it'd be pronounced Cytail or something. Citadel cipher? Or Skittle cipher might actually be right. I'm still a little confused about it, to be honest. What the hell is that? You wrap a piece of paper around a stick, and then write several sentences on it, so that the whole paper is filled up. Then you unwrap the paper, and you can't tell what the original message was, right? That's how it works, more or less. Okay, so the diameter of whatever you wrap it around dictates whether or not it matches up, basically. I guess that and the angle you wrap it at. Then, to decipher it, you gotta have a stick that's the same diameter as the original one. Same diameter as the original one, huh? Yeah. Then you just wrap the paper around that stick and you can read the code. Is that what the toilet paper shortages a few months were about? Everybody was suddenly interested in making Skittles ciphers? That would actually be a better excuse. And we have a wooden box. There's something in here. Oh, luminol. Yeah, that's also a mainstay in my bathroom. I keep it right between the bleach and the lye. What the hell is this thing? Some kind of spray bottle? Well, I mean, that much is obvious. There's something written on it. Lumen... Can't read anything else. The label's all faded. Let me see that. You just grabbed it from him. That wasn't very nice. Oh, this is luminol. You know, forensics guys use it at crime scenes. Yeah. That stuff that glows blue when you spray it on blood. Even if the blood's been wiped off, it'll still glow. Alright, that looks like everything up here. And what about down below? Oh, well, we have a bucket. This, maybe Junpei can interact with the water without burning the crap out of himself. It's a tin bucket. Hey, Jumpy. Do you remember back in elementary school when you spilled all of our paint across the whole classroom? They made you clean it up, and all they gave you was a sponge and a bucket like this. Ah, man, he must have really had to scramble and get it up while it was still wet, otherwise, that's a futile mission. Hey, come on now. Can't we just leave the past in the past? Okay. A thick pipe that stretches across the floor. And a broom. Junpei reached for the broom, and as he grabbed it, he heard a soft voice from behind him. It was June.
The rabbit Hutch.
Huh?
He turned around. June still looked sadly pale, but there was a smile on her face.
Oh, you just reminded me of it. The rabbit Hutch, I mean.
How did I remind you of something like that?
Jumpy and the broom. You were always playing around with the broom in front of the rabbit hutch.
I was.
Don't you remember?
Junpei stared at the broom in his hand.
You mean you don't remember that summer either?
She looked very sad. He shook his head.
Of course I remember. How could I forget something like that? It was terrible.
I just discovered Harry Potter, and everywhere I went, I pretended I was flying on that broom. I even pretended the rabbits were students I'd transfigured. It was a pretty dark chapter of my childhood. They were in the 6th grade. Junpei and June had been assigned to take care of the classroom pets, the rabbits. Their chief duty was to clean the hutches every morning. On the final day of school before summer vacation began, Junpei overslept. He rushed to the school and found June standing in front of the rabbit hutches. No sooner had Junpei arrived than June began to cry. He had no idea why until he looked behind her into the rabbit hutch. the first thing he saw was blood. The hutch was filled with the dead bodies of the rabbits. Even after their teachers and friends came to see what the commotion was, June couldn't stop crying.
I just kept crying and crying until you came over. You held my hand, and you looked very serious, and you said, "Don't cry. I'm going to catch the person who did this." After you told me that, I finally stopped crying.
Well, the real fun started after you quit crying. You told me we were going to catch the killer together.
June smiled, and a little of the flush of life returned to her cheeks.
Then we decided that we'd ambush them.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, hey, it's one of the best songs in this game's soundtrack. It's sad, but also nostalgic and a little bit romantic. Perfect for this story, actually. The school also kept roosters and guinea pigs. Junpei and June had decided the murderer would likely return to finish off the rest of the animals. They would ambush the killer at night. Junpei and June hid behind the hutch at dusk and waited. It was a warm summer night. The quiet sound of crickets whispered through the air. As the sun went down, the stars began to wink at them from the sky. And June's, Akane Kuroshiki's face. That night was something Junpei knew he would never forget, as long as he lived.
But the murderer never showed up. We waited for them all summer vacation, and they never showed up.
I mean, that's a perfect outcome, really. The whole summer was just you, the animals, and Connie just sharing the stars. It's anticlimactic, but boring is underrated. Especially when exciting means fighting somebody who's been murdering animals.
Yeah, but the animals didn't get attacked either. I think all that work amounted to something, you know?
He'd felt the same way, but it was good to hear her say it.
Although, you know, if you think about it, we were probably taking on a lot more than we could handle.
Yeah, that's what I meant to point out. What did your parents think you were doing? If you were just staking that place out all evening, or potentially into the night?
What do you mean?
She looked up at him, confused.
Oh, come on, we were just kids. If whoever killed the rabbits had actually showed up, they probably would have had a knife or something. I mean, you must have been pretty worried, right?
I wasn't worried. Because you were there with me.
Aw. You earned that blush, June. That was sweet. I usually find the romantic subplots distracting, well, at least in video games, but I don't know if it's the puppy love angle or what. These two are just adorable. This ship is A-okay with me. In fact, I think I'm about as concerned with it sinking as the ship we're actually on. She blushed furiously.
Well, you know, no one else wanted to take care of the animals.
Clearly embarrassed, she tried desperately to change the subject.
I was the only one who asked to do it at first.
Yeah, well, boys don't really want to bother with taking care of animals, you know.
What? That's lame. Animals are fucking awesome.
Well, yeah, but you asked to do it after I did, didn't you?
If it wasn't the rabbits, they were going to make me do something else. You know how that school was. I figured it'd be better if I was working with somebody who wasn't too much of a loudmouth, right? Somebody who wasn't going to tell on me if I felt like blowing it off.
Boy, I am finna smack your ass. Be courtly right now.
Really? that's why you volunteered?
No.
Yeah, it is.
Although she's probably smart enough to realize that. Only Junpei's stupid enough to think he's being convincing right now. He nodded quickly and much too earnestly, and then quickly looked away at something very important.
Really?
What, his feet?
Of course.
That hadn't been the reason, of course. He had asked to take care of the rabbits so that he could be near June. But it had been so long ago, he couldn't bring himself to tell her how he'd felt back then. It would be embarrassing. He took a quick break to clear his head, tossed the broom up, and then snatched it out of the air.
Well, we don't really have time to be walking down memory lane like this, you know? We've got to figure out a way out of this room. Otherwise...
Yes. I'm gonna look over there.
June nodded curtly, then turned and walked away. Ah, damn. I could have spent the whole episode watching you two make bedroom eyes at each other, even if you were doing it right next to Snake's corpse. No, you know what? In fact, come here, June. I don't even care. I want Snake to watch.
I should get back to it myself. Ah!
Oh man, we really were right on top of it though, weren't we?
That's right. The pool of blood.
Yeah, kind of a uniquely unromantic setting, actually. Junpei turned around and looked at the room. At Snake's body. Chunks of flesh and organs still lay on the floor.
Going on and on about old times right next to a corpse? What were we doing? Well, maybe it was because we're in this mess.
Despite such a situation, or perhaps because of it, the mind turned to the farthest thing from death that it could find. Yeah, it's kind of like the opposite of extreme of survivor's guilt in a way. Instead of over-empathizing with the deceased to the point of damaging your own mental well-being, you overcorrect in the opposite direction and seek out things so hellacious that they allow you to bypass the grieving process entirely. Still, Junpei couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt at wanting so desperately to live when Snake lay dead before him.
I have to survive, no matter the cost. I need to make sure she gets out too.
As he stared at the clumps of blackened flesh, all Junpei could think of was how much he wanted to live. And it bumped me to adventure mode for some reason. I'm gonna have to correct that. But first let's inspect this broom. It's, hardly a Nimbus or a Firebolt, but I think it'll do in a pinch. What are you doing with that broom? Well, that's a good question. We should probably go ahead and combine it with this roll of toilet paper, because it's probably the trick to decrypting our Skittles cipher, isn't it? What if I wrap the toilet paper around the broom? Oh, so you wrap the toilet paper around the broom, huh? Well, it looks like the symbols line up perfectly. It says 634 plus. Alright, so we've got our first hint towards the passwords for that keypad. We could probably also fill up the bucket, but I don't really know what we do with it. For now, let's go ahead and inspect the rest of these stalls that Santa hasn't gone through yet. What do you think this is? It looks like tar. It's kind of sticky. I don't think we can just wipe it off. I doubt just pouring some water on it's gonna help much either. What about hot water? Hot water? If we had some really hot water, like boiling hot, then maybe we could wash it off. Well, I think we found the impetus for filling that bucket anyway. There's some toilet paper on this shelf. Right, not much else important here. What about in the third stall? The dividing wall that separates the toilets. There's nothing in the toilet. If there was, that would be gross. Hey, Seven, you stole my joke from like 7 episodes ago. There might be something in the tank, you know? Let's open that shit up. Ah, another key card. That one was actually quite easy to come by. A red key. It's a red card. Probably a key card. Do you remember if you saw a card reader anywhere around here? Yep, on the exit door. But this won't get us very far without the passwords. You know what? We didn't search the toilet tank in the previous stall. Let's double back and make sure we didn't miss anything. It's a water tank for a toilet. I've seen a lot of OC guys try and hide a piece in something like this. Usually for a 187 or something. Guess they think it's clever. Don't know when they'll figure out everybody else thinks it's clever, too. Huh? I mean, I know peace, but what's OC? It's Orange County, Santa. Organized crime. What is that? Some kind of police slang? Huh. Probably. Huh. What did I say? Why is he looking all sad now? Sounds like we might have jogged his memory. Maybe he's a cop? Maybe he's had a bad run-in with the cops? Maybe that's why he doesn't have his memory. I kind of think that's a stretch, but who knows? That's not really important right now, guys. Let's just check it out, alright? Well, he's not wasting any time. But it did net us a screwdriver, which means we can get that thermometer off the wall now. It's a screwdriver. We can unscrew things with this. Yes, there was something we need to unscrew. Let's go do that. There was a thermometer on the wall.
Hey, Junpei, you know why thermometers only go up to 107 degrees Fahrenheit?
No, I can't say I ever thought about that.
Oh, right, I have to switch back to the novel mode. Almost forgot.
At 107 degrees, the cells in the human body start to die, and the organs begin to shut down. The proteins in your cells start to harden. It's like when you hard-boil an egg. Even if you cool it down afterwards, it won't go back to being a raw egg.
I mean, I guess that might make sense for a medical thermometer, but this just measures the ambient temperature.
In other words, it's dead. That's why thermometers don't go past 107. There's no point.
Why had Santa
Oh,
brought
yeah?
that up, Junpei wondered. He continued to work at the screw. Man, this fucking thing is really in there, huh?
But it's pretty rare for a fever to get that high. Even viruses and stuff don't usually drive the body temperature up to 107.
No kidding, that is up there. I usually think of like 104 is getting insane. That's just ludicrous.
Of course, there are other external things that could.
Like what?
Well, let's see. Something like getting locked in a sauna.
I guess it's a good thing I didn't crank up the showers and steam this place out.
Or getting thrown
then.
into an incinerator and burnt to death.
Yeah, I guess that would get a little hotter than 107 degrees Fahrenheit.
Junpei gave a short, barking laugh. You know, I said earlier I anticipated having a heated conversation with Santa, but this isn't what I'd expected. A moment later, the screw fell off. Finally. With a small tug, Junpei pulled the thermometer from the wall.
All right, I got it.
Santa doesn't look impressed. He looked up and saw Santa glaring at a blank section of the wall.
Huh? What's up?
Did I say something to offend you?
Nothing. Forget about it.
Santa spun around and walked off, away from Junpei.
What was that all about?
But as Junpei watched him go, he didn't look angry. He looked very, very sad. Okay, so that settles us up with the thermometer. Oh, you took the thermometer off. It says open at the bottom of the gauge. I wonder what it means. Well, it's at the far end of the gauge where the highest temperatures are, so I think that means if we top this thing out at its max temperature, it'll open something up. Maybe when it gets hot, something will open? Let's find out. How about we fill up that bucket and see about submerging it? Oh, past it. Maybe I can use the shower here to fill the bucket with hot water. Hey, 7, could you turn on the shower? I'm gonna put the bucket under the head. Ah, yeah. Okay, sure thing. Alright, no burns this time. It's filled with water. Try not to spill it, okay? It's heavy. I don't want June to get burned either. Okay, okay. I'll carry it. Good man. Okay, I can't combine it with the watch. Maybe I just have to interact directly with the shower. Scalding Junpei's hands once again. Yeah, if I can get this hot water on the thermometer, then maybe... Alright, thermometer, let's get this party started. Yep, looks like that's doing the trick. There goes the gauge. And now that it's at the open mark. Oh, it opened. What's this? Looks like there's a piece of paper in here. 957 plus. Okay, so far we have 957 and 634. And what haven't we used yet? The luminol or the bucket of hot water? Alright, we know what to do with the water for sure. We just need to dump it in this toilet over here. There's something that looks like tar inside the toilet bowl. If I flush the hot water from the bucket, then it should clean it up. Oh, okay, it wants me to flush it from the tank. I don't know if that would actually be more effective than just pouring it directly on and letting the water's weight do some of the work. Whatever. Alright, so I just pour the hot water into this tank and... looks like you filled it. Now you should be able to flush it, right? There's probably a handle somewhere on the tank that you can pull. You think so? Seriously? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Have you just been shitting in an outhouse for the last 23 years, Junpei? Alright, let's flush the hot water. Well, there it goes. Just like a toilet should work. No surprise bidet action. Okay, and 185. The stuff's washed off. Looks like that writing was numbers. See it? 185 equals. Okay, so this is the last string of numbers in that problem. So actually what I'm doing is calculating one sum out of all of them, which is a little bit confusing because I thought I was going to need 2 different passcodes to open the door. Unless there's something I've overlooked. What is it? You got me. Just looks like numbers. Well, we haven't used the luminol yet. And, well, there's certainly a place with lots of blood to examine. Wait. You don't really think we're supposed to use the luminol here, do you? Well, I mean, they drew our attention to it. It's either that or we just test every surface in this room. That sounds time-consuming. Might as well start here. Yeah, it does seem kind of weird to use it here. I guess it is counterintuitive since we can already see so much of the blood. But maybe I should try it, just in case. Plus, this is where the light switch is. Alright, so we're looking at LLRLRL, which must be the combination for flooding these pipes and pushing that keycard up out of this drainage slot. Okay, so it was left, left, right, left, right, left, correct? Well, I did what it said on the wall. I wonder if it actually did anything. Hey, this drain's acting up. What the hell did you do? I just messed with the valves a little. Nothing big. You acted like we were all gonna drown. It's like a foot in diameter puddle of water, Santa. And it does look like it floated that card up to the top for us. Jumpy, the card is floating. Looks like the water floated the card up out of the drain. There must be water flowing through the pipe on the right. There's water pouring out of the drain. Okay, I didn't think he was removing the grate at first. Okay, so we got the blue key card. It's the blue key card. This is, the symbol for Mercury, isn't it? There was an elevator right outside of the big hospital room. I think that same symbol was on the card reader next to it. That's right. I guess that means we're not supposed to use this card in this room. No, not necessarily. There was that one card that we found in the kitchen. I think it was the Saturn keycard. It opened the door from the kitchen. Yeah, it opened the door from the kitchen that led downstairs to the big hospital room, but it also opens one of the planet doors. So some of the keycards have multiple functions. Do you really think so? You don't think maybe we need it for this room and for the elevator? Yeah, see, June was paying attention earlier. Alright, I think that's everything we need to solve the last bit of the puzzle. Oh, hey, the blue light just came on. Alright. Nothing happens when I press the buttons. I guess I have to get the red and blue lights to turn on first. Oh, okay, I see. It's kind of like the keypad that was on the door in the captain's quarters. Except instead of using a key to power it on, we have to authenticate with 2 key cards. So it's not that we have to input 2 different passwords, we just have to use 2 cards to activate the panel before we enter the 1 passcode to get out. And the solution for that okay, the blue light went out. That's weird. Ah, we have to swipe them in order? Seriously? Why? Okay. Now we've got the keypad enabled. So what was I talking about? That's right, the actual passwords. So the solution to this is adding 957, 634, and 185, which gives us a final answer of 1776. The same year America signed the Declaration of Independence, actually, for a random bit of trivia. Great job, Jumpy. Both of the lights are on now. Now you just need to put in the password. Alright, let's do just that. If I can manage to hit the correct buttons. I have no idea how I pulled the inventory up. Both lights are on. We should be able to enter the password now. Okay, yeah, no, I know how to use the keypad. I don't know why it has to explain it every time. I did it again. Fuck. 1776, enter. And voila. Another escape room cracked. And that brings us to our oh-so-familiar hallway outside the big hospital room. And to a convenient stopping point. That room was fun, though. One of my favorite escape rooms in the game, I think. Something about it just feels real, and I feel like it brings back a lot of the nostalgia of playing the old Flash-based escape room puzzles on websites like Newgrounds. And not only that, but we actually got a good bit more story out of that than we usually do out of the puzzle sections. More often than not, when we go into one of these rooms, we just discuss some sort of paranormal pseudoscience or sci-fi theory for 20 minutes and then solve the puzzle and go about our business. But this time we uncovered a murder plot and we got a rare look into a couple of our characters' backstories, which was great. Learning about Junpei and Connie growing up together was cute and really provided some catharsis from all the awful things that have been happening. Of course, now we're fresh out of that daydream and back in our waking nightmare. And this time, the responsibility of reporting Snake's death falls on us. I'm not looking forward to telling Clover, and I'm absolutely dreading the beating Lotus is going to give me for leaving her and Clover behind, but hey, whatever happens, happens.